Welcome back to Exotic Car Play Place, everybody. Thanks for joining in again. Today we are going to share with you 7 tips on how to strategically maximize your earnings and minimize depreciation when you buy a vehicle. After you sell it after 3, 4, 5 years down the road, we're going to help you get the most out of your dollars after you sell your car. Let's get into it now. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Mark with Exotic Car Play Place. So tip number 1 boils down to making your proper vehicle selection. I mean, in today's day and age, there's lots and lots of great choices out there. And you have to decide for yourself, first of all, what are you looking for? What satisfies your needs, your wants? Whether you need a car, do you need all-wheel drive, a pickup truck, an SUV? Maybe you want something that's hybrid. How about high performance? Lots of things to consider. You have to keep things mainstream. For example, pick makes that are consistently high sellers on the used car market. Toyotas, Hondas, Acuras, Lexus. Those always do well as a resale. If you want a high resale value and you want a European car, for example, pick the cars that are very mainstream, basic cars. For example, BMW, stick with sort of the 2 and 3 series cars. If you're Audi, stick with the A4s and cars like that. More of the basics will always do a little bit better for you in terms of depreciation. Now, another thing to consider is colors. Colors are a huge factor. Do you really want that really one-off special lime green or crazy orange, neon yellow? Well, those things look great while you own them, but consider not everybody wants those colors. So you have to stick with the grays, the whites, the blacks, the silvers, the real consistent, mainstream, easy to sell vehicle colors. As well, if you're buying a high performance car like a Porsche or a BMW M car, for example, you're likely going to do better with a manual transmission on a resale because that's what the purists want at the used car level. Now, if you're buying a large vehicle like an S-Class Benz or a BMW 7 Series, of course those come with automatic, so your choices are minimal. But again, if you do have choices, your performance cars typically are manual, your luxury and get it runabouts are typically more automatic. That's what the used car buyers are looking for. Now, another thing really to consider is maybe you buy a used vehicle. After all, new suffers the heaviest level of depreciation, and buying a used is always going to be better value. But you don't want to adopt a car that has a lot of problems from the previous owner, so you want to get the newest vehicle possible, maximize the service life, as well as minimize the depreciation you'll see. So realistically, the 3-year car right now in 2019, a 2016 model year is your maximum value. Why? Because you usually still have a year or 2 years warranty left, and often the miles are low enough that you have a lot of service life left in that vehicle. The best choice to consider, possibly a 2 or 3 year old used vehicle. So another thing that's going to work in your favor if you're buying a car and you're worried about depreciation is ensuring that all of your servicing is at the bare minimum up to snuff, up to date, and you have full records, because after all, getting it repaired, getting it maintained is important, but what's even more important is to have the paper trail associated with that. Because at the end of the day, when you're selling your car and a prospective buyer wants to look at purchasing your car, that's the best way, is to have a pile of records that you can give to that new buyer that will prove that you've done all the required maintenance to keep that vehicle running perfectly. Now, another thing that's going to help you minimize the depreciation on your car while you own it is taking care of it. So one key element, of course, is on the interior of the car. Make sure that if you have a leather interior, that the bolsters are always lubricated with a nice leather conditioner, that the car is clean inside, you always vacuum the floors. And if you live in a climate or a location or geography that has poor weather, for example, snow and lots of rain and sloppy conditions, I would highly advise getting those hard mats, those hard plastic floor mats that are essentially molded to fit your floors. They get in there, they do a great job of collecting all that debris, and then when you take your car to the car wash, you can take that out, spray the mat off, put it back in, and all the carpet underneath stays dry and clean. And so another thing that I would advise on strongly is these cars are so pretty when they're new. They have this really shiny paint, and that goes a long ways to the way the car looks and presents itself for years. But unfortunately, you live in conditions where you have all this junk on the road. There's lots of rocks and gravel sometimes, depending on where you live, and that can often take a toll on hitting. You get rocks and whatnot hitting the front end of this car, creating a lot of rock chips. So what I would advise is get a really good paint protection film to cover the front end of the car, at least a half hood, fender, mirrors. That's the big thing. That's the blast zone. If you want to go further than that, that's perfect. As well, what's popular these days, a lot of people are putting on wraps, full color change wraps. Sometimes they're doing a full paint protection film on the entire car. It might cost you a couple $1,000s, but it protects your investment. You can leave that on for 4 or 5 years, peel it off if you like at the end of that term, and then you have a brand new car underneath that presents extremely well. That's also going to help you protect your investment. So the sixth thing that you have to consider is mileage. Now, a car, you bought it to use, and we need to get around somehow, so of course mileage is somewhat out of our control. But if you have a second vehicle, sometimes maybe opt to use a second vehicle. If you're getting close to that 20 to 24,000 kilometers per year, then you know you're getting on the high side. If you're in that 10,000 to 15,000, which is pretty normal for a lot of people, you're fine. But again, considering after 5 years, if you're over 100,000 kilometers or 60,000 miles, that's considered higher miles, and that will be harder to sell. So definitely, if you're getting closer to that by the end of your term or when you project selling the car, make sure that you consider using other options at times. Like I said, you bought the vehicle to use it. However, there may be moments where you have other options. So the seventh tip about how you maximize your car's value and minimize depreciation really boils down to timing of the year. Of course, if you're in the wintertime, don't try to sell your convertible. If you're in the summertime, well, that's probably a good time to sell just about anything. But as you go into the fall, people are looking for SUVs, 4x4s, trucks, and the like. Again, pickup trucks are easy sold during the summer or fall because a lot of times people use them for camping or hauling things. Of course, four-wheel drive is good for wintertime. But if you have a high-performance sports car, an exotic, or a convertible, people aren't looking for those in the fall or the winter. So time it so you maximize the value of that car. And with all that said, everybody, check out the video over here. That's going to take you to a video about the BMWs that depreciate harder than a stock market crash. As well, what do we have here? That's right, we have some Exotic Car Play Place merchandise that is available for you today. Click down the link below the video here. You'll see their shirts, cups, phone cases, all available. If you want to support the channel, if you even just want to be the group that wears some of our merchandise, that's a great place to have a look, guys. It is much appreciated. After all, that is a big part of how YouTubers do, in fact, make a living. And this is going to allow you to continue on and making great videos. So thanks again, everybody. And I really hope to talk to you soon. Catch you then. Bye-bye.